America is a big force on the world stage. It has the biggest military by far, with its budget encompassing the next 10 militaries combined. But even a country this strong needs friends. So who's there to back America up? Who are America's allies? First off, I have to note that I'm going to have two sets of allies, explicit and implicit allies. Explicit allies are the countries that have actually signed a military defense agreement with one another and are thus primarily obligated by that contract. Implicit allies are when significant economic and political ties would imply a military intervention if a conflict breaks out between nations, instead of a treaty declaring their allegiance up front. These are obligated mostly by economic factors, because devastating wars with people who you trade with will probably end in a loss of economic power for your country as well. For example, in America's case, think somewhere like Israel. The US has no official defense pact with Israel, but America would come to their aid in most situations due to their economic, military, and cultural proximity with them. American presidents themselves sometimes describe Israel as an American ally, despite knowing full well that there are no mutual signed defense pacts on the books, which the term ally is, or rather was, implying. Alright, so here's a map of America's explicit allies as of 2018 in no particular order. There's Australia and New Zealand through ANZUS, a trilateral defense pact between the three nations. Most of Latin America with the Rio Treaty, which most participants seem to disregard politically and will probably dissolve soon. Canada, Danish Greenland, and much of Europe through NATO, which is expanding ever eastward since its creation, as well as South Korea, Japan, and the Philippines, each in separate defense pacts. There have been attempts to make a trilateral defense pact between South Korea, Japan, and the US, but South Korea and Japan aren't ready to be that friendly to each other just yet. If you look closely, you can start to see who America is trying to protect against. Oh look, it's the other two top military contenders just behind America. Weird. Now here's where things get a little interesting with what I'm calling America's implicit allies. This is open to interpretation, as we have no concrete document to expect America to defend these countries in the event of a war. These are just some countries, in my opinion, that are the closest to allies in all but name. Israel, as formerly mentioned, is a massive beneficiary to the United States. They are close economically, and America has supported Israeli political existence since before its creation. As previously noted, maintaining a friendly reputation with Israel is something that has been consistently bipartisan as far as recent presidents are concerned. Economically, there's a total of about $24 billion in yearly trade, held in part by 2,500 US firms that currently employ 72,000 people in Israel. A disproportionately large amount of this corporate integration is in the defense sector, which would make it all the easier for the American government to protect its interests should Israel need help militarily. Close by is Saudi Arabia, another nation that is quite important to the US, stemming from almost exclusively economic reasons. Since 1974, they've been required to sell their petroleum exclusively in US dollars, no matter who the buyer is, which essentially makes the dollar backed by oil, which is where the term petrodollar comes from, by the way. This is a big deal because Saudi Arabia controls about 20% of the world's total supply of petroleum and a tenth of the world's yearly petroleum production, and that's only increasing. These are huge numbers since everybody needs some sort of petroleum product on a daily basis. So Arabia is quite rich when it comes to fossil fuels, but being in a desert, they lack a defensible terrain, as well as the means to feed a large standing army to defend their vast reserves from outside threats with. This is why they need a bodyguard like the US around. Otherwise, the Shiites next door might come knocking. Assuming the world still needs oil, and that a large amount of it comes from Arabia, then America will be there once again to defend its interests. If you have any suggestions for video topics you'd like to see, make sure to leave them in the comments down below.